In the country of the United States of America lived a beautiful and gallant lady of 26 years old. She was the most beautiful and hardworking in her family, with so much excitement showing on Joy's face. Sis, what's the excitement all about? Clara asked. You remember Fred, my boyfriend? She asked. Clara sighed. How could you so much believe in someone you have not seen before or know anything about except on the phone? Be warned. But he has invited me for the Christmas holiday, Joyce said. A few days later, Joyce's heart was beating fast with excitement. For the first time, she was going to meet Fred. The boyfriend she has fallen in love with 7 months of talking online has been like a dream, full of sweet, lovely messages, happy calls, and promises of a future together. Joy loved Fred deeply, and he loved her such as much, so she thought. This was also Joy's first time in Africa. She sat nervously in the airport, holding her box tightly and looking around. Suddenly, she saw a dark, charming, cute, tall man walking towards her with a bunch of flowers in his hand. Fred, her heart skipped a beat. She jumped and ran into his arms and hugged him. They kissed like they've waited forever for this moment. The two lovebirds got into a taxi and started their trip to Faith Village. As the busy city street turned into a quiet roads and tall trees appeared, Joy felt excited. But when the taxi stopped at a quiet junction, she felt a bit confused. This is as far as cars can go, Fred explained to her. My village doesn't have a road for cars yet. We will take a motorcycle from here. They climbed onto a motorcycle and rode on a shadow path until it stopped near a river bank. Joy looked around, puzzled. Why are we stopping here? She asked. Fred pointed across the river. My village is just on the other side. The bike can't cross the water, but don't worry, I'll carry you across. It's not far. Joy hesitated but nodded. She thought the trip was fun, but deep inside, she felt a little bit uneasy. The river was busy with people. Some were swimming, others washing clothes, and a few were sitting and chatting. Everyone turned to look at Joy and Fred as they got closer to the river bank. Fred called a young boy nearby to help carry Joy's luggages. When he bent slightly, asking her to climb onto his back, she held him tightly as he stepped into the cold water. As they crossed, Joy heard two girls that were standing nearby. They were whispering, but their words sent a chill down her spine. I think she's the sacrifice for this year, one of them said with a laugh. Joy's eyes widened, and she turned to look at them. What are they talking about? She asked softly. Fred paused for a moment. Don't mind them. They are not talking to you, he replied with a gentle voice. When they got to Fred's house, Joy felt a little more at ease. His mother and siblings ran towards them. They welcomed her warmly, helping with her box. The house was small, with a clear wall and a thatched roof. Joy sat in the living room, looking around the surroundings. As neighbors began to come in one after the other to meet her, everyone seemed excited to see Joy, but some asked questions about where she came from, while others just stared at her like she was someone very special. Then a small girl of 12 years old ran into the living room. It was Fred's niece. Her face lit up when she saw Joy. Miss Joy, she shouted with so much excitement, running towards her and throwing her arms around her. Joy laughed and hugged her tightly. Kukuma had spoken to Joy a few times on the phone when she talked to Fred, so she had already felt close to her. Joy reached into one of her boxes and pulled out a pack of chocolates and fine clothes she had bought as gifts. Kukuma's eyes grew wide. For me? Her voice full of surprises. Yes, for you, said Joy with a big laugh. Kukuma jumped up and down, clapping her hands. Thank you, she said, hugging her again. The room filled with laughter as Kokoma showed the gift to everyone. Joy felt a little happier now. The family was kind and she could see how much Kokoma adored her. That night, after she had freshened up, Joy lay down on the bed in Fred's room to rest. The room was simple with a wooden bed. She picked up her phone, wanting to call her sister and tell her about her day. But when she looked at the screen of her phone, there was no signal. Fred? She called out, I can't get any internet here. Fred came into the room and sat at the edge of the bed. Oh, my bad. I forgot to tell you. The network here is bad, he explained. I will go to town tomorrow and get you a service that works in this area. Suddenly, Kokoma came rushing into the room, looking worried. Uncle Fred, there are some elders outside looking for you, Kokoma said softly. Fred's expression changed. He stood up quickly and told Joy, I will be right back. Just rest. Joy nodded. He watched as he walked out, leaving the door slightly open. Some elders stood waiting. They were dressed in long worn clothes, their faces unreadable and serious. Fred greeted them quietly. Kokoma, uneasy and curious, followed quietly and hid behind a corner to listen. Outside, one of the men spoke in a low, deep voice. Is everything ready for tonight? Fred nodded silently. The man continued, reaching into his pocket and pulling out a small, dark bottle tied with red cloth. He handed it over to Fred. Put it in her food or drink and make sure she takes it before midnight. We will return at 12:30 a.m. for her. Kokoma's eyes widened as she listened. Fred hesitated for a moment but then took the bottle without saying a word. He turned and walked back into the house. Fred went outside to take his bed in the bedroom at the corner of the compound. The moonlight shined so brightly it was like daytime. Inside, Joy laid on the bed, trying to push away the strange feelings and thoughts growing in her mind. The night had started so beautifully and warm, yet something felt off. Suddenly, the door gradually opened and Kokoma sneaked into the room, her small frame barely making a sound. She looked scared. Miss Joy, she whispered, her voice trembling, I am sorry to bother you, but I need to tell you something now. Joy sighed, thinking it was just another one of Kokoma's usual interruptions. Earlier, she had come in twice, once to thank her again for the chocolate and clothes, and then to ask her to give her a phone so she could play games with it. Joy smiled. Kokoma, I'm really tired. Come back tomorrow, okay? Kokoma hesitated, her face with so much worry. She turned to leave but suddenly turned back around. Miss Joy, she said, her voice urgent now. Uncle Fred is coming to give you food or drink when he comes back. Please don't eat or drink it. Joy sat up, frightened. Kokoma, what are you talking about? Before she could say another word, Kokoma turned and ran out of the room, closing the door behind her. Joy sat there, her heart pounding. The word echoed in her mind. Don't drink or eat. I'll explain later. What does she mean? Joy wondered. When Fred came back from the bedroom, he looked fresh and calm. He put on clean clothes, went out for a moment and returned with a plate of food in his hand. His smile was cute but felt, I've got something for you. Eat this, babe. It was made specially for you. Trust me, you will like it, he said softly, handing the plate of food to Joy. It is very good and will help you relax. Joy laughed back. But I ate a lot of food when I arrived, Joy said. But Fred still insisted. Joy collected, though her hand trembled as she took the plate. Wow, she said, forcing a cheerful tone. This smells nice, but can I have water? I am very thirsty. Fred nodded and stood up. Of course, he said, leaving the room to get water. The moment he stepped out, Joy's heart beat like never before. She quickly poured the food under the bed carefully not to let it split on the floor, leaving a little portion in the plate. Then she laid down on the bed pretending to be asleep. When Fred returned holding a cup of water, he called softly, Joy? Babe, here is the water you requested for. But Joy didn't move. She kept her eyes shut, breathing slow and steady. That was fast, Fred said to himself. He placed the water on the table and walked over to a small wooden box in the corner of the room. He opened it carefully and took out a tiny clay pot decorated with strange markings. Standing near the bed, he held the pot up and said in a low voice, O gods of our land, your sacrifice is ready. Joy's body froze. She felt every word like a knife cutting through her. Fred bent over her, holding the clay pot above her head. He moved it in a slow circle 3 times. Her heart pounded so loudly she was sure Fred could hear it. While lying down, she remembered how one of her siblings had warned her about traveling to Africa to see a man she does not know. After finishing, Fred placed the pot on the floor and whispered something that Joy couldn't understand. Then he left the room, closing the door firmly behind him. A loud click followed as he locked it from the outside. Joy waited until his footsteps faded. She stood up and ran to the door, struggling with the handle, but she couldn't open. She was trapped, panic rising in her chest. She glanced around the small room. Her eyes landed on a tiny window. It wasn't large, but it might be the only way out. With all her strength, she jumped onto the table and twisted her body through the window. She fell to the ground outside, her nails scraping against the dirt and her hands hitting the window corner. It hurt, but she didn't stop. She pushed herself up into the dark, cold night. The village was very quiet. The street was calm, surrounded by tall trees that seemed to whisper as the wind passed through. She didn't know where she was going, but she knew she couldn't stop. The farther she ran, the darker it became. Her breath came in short, her legs trembling with exhaustion. After what felt like forever, she spotted a faint light in the distance. As she got closer, she saw a small old hut. Outside sat an elderly man, Mr. Odell by name. His wrinkled face barely lit by a dim lantern. He was taking a snuff, his eyes sharp and observant. Joy got towards him, tears streaming down her face. "Please, sir," she cried. "Someone is after me. Please let me stay here until morning. I don't know where to go." The old man crossed his eyes at Joy, his expression unreadable. He seemed to think for a moment before finally nodding. "Come in," he said in a rough voice. The man led Joy into his hut. It was small and simple, with only 2 rooms, a small fire in one corner, its faint light casting shadows on the wall. "Sit down," the man said. Joy dropped to the floor, crying softly, her body trembling. "What happened, girl?" the man asked, sitting beside her. Joy tried to speak, but a word came out slowly through her. I don't. My boyfriend wants to hurt me. I ran. I don't know what to do." The man's face softened. He placed one of his hands on Joy's shoulder. "You are safe here," he said. "No one will hurt you. Rest now. We'll figure it out in the morning." Meanwhile, Mr. Udo was worried about what could happen if he does not release Joy for the sacrifice. He was confused on what to do because he knows the consequences embedded. So when Fred and the elders got to Mr. Udo's hut, he handed Joy over to them. He felt sorry. Joy was taken to the shrine, and then she was used for the end of the year sacrifice. When the news got to Kokoma that Joy had been used for the sacrifice, she was bitterly disappointed that she could not save her despite her effort. So my dear viewers, share your thoughts in the comment section about this story. Thank you for watching. Please kindly subscribe to my channel, like this video and turn on the notification bell so you can get notified anytime I upload an interesting videos like this. See you in my next video. Bye.